All right, so it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage to talk about, for all the zeros and all the O's out there, we're going to talk about people and culture. So it is my pleasure to welcome Lisa Kane. She's the Associate Professor from FIU Chaplain Hospitality School. Hopefully I got that right. Lisa's bringing a wonderful panel up. Let's talk people and culture. Thanks, Lisa.
Well, good morning, everyone. How are you all enjoying the conference so far? Excellent. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you all to What's New in People and Culture. I will be moderating this session today along with Kelly Russell, Holly Lawson, Kim Dunbar, and Bradley Kantz. I'm going to take a moment and allow them to introduce ourselves, and then we'll get this started.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Russell. I'm a Vice President of Human Resources at Encore. I've been with Encore for over 28 years, and we are an event technology and production services provider in over 2,100 hotels and venues across the globe, and a proud partner in Inspire.
And I'm Kim Dunbar, the Senior Vice President of Human Resources for Corey Hospitality, based out of Dallas, Texas. You might think I had a wild night last night, but I'm on the tail end of something, so I'm hoping I can get through this. I moved to Texas about 3 years ago after pretty much being in California for my entire career. This is actually my second invite to speak as a panelist. The last time we were in the throes of COVID, so our conversations and our topic were much different than it is today, but I'm really happy to be back.
Good morning, everyone. Ditto, not a wild night on the tail end, not my normal voice. Holly Lawson, Senior Vice President of Human Resources for Noble House Hotels and Resorts, based in Seattle. Been with the company for about 3 years. If you caught the icebreaker yesterday, I'm a Z, so proudly the only troublemaker HR person I think out there, but that is what it is. But really excited to see some familiar faces here and meet some new ones and talk about some of these topics today with some of my peers here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Brad Kantz. I am the general manager for the Ritz-Carlton at Bacara in Santa Barbara. I did have a wild night last night. No, it's a pleasure to be here. I've got a 36-year career that spans over Four Seasons hotels, Ritz-Carlton, and a country club. But my leadership was really taught in the Ritz-Carlton under Marriott. So pleasure to be here. Look forward to having a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you all. And just so everyone knows, today we're going to explore modern strategies to enhance workforce experiences in luxury hotels, emphasizing innovative employee engagement programs that align with current expectations. We're going to discuss how technology and social media are reshaping recruitment and retention, fostering more meaningful work environments to boost job satisfaction and loyalty. Additionally, the conversation will address evolving work culture to embrace diversity, inclusion, and sustainability, and analyze emerging trends for managing a diverse and dynamic workforce in the hospitality luxury sector. So our first question for our panelists today is, how important is it for hospitality companies to address industry-specific challenges like seasonality in hospitality to retain your workforce? And Holly, I'm going to start with you.
Sure, yeah. So coming from a personal space of it being incredibly important, our portfolio is mainly seasonal locations, but I did want to get a read in the room of the hotel operators here. Who is currently at a seasonal property or has mostly seasonal properties in your portfolio? Okay, great. I know you guys. I worked with you. Yeah, I think it's something that we have over the years recognized you really do need a firm strategy per location. The phrase hope is not a strategy comes to mind when it comes to staffing for our seasonal locations and being prepared. So I think every year we get a little better at it, and every year we get a little bit of a firmer playbook in what's needed, in knowing where is our talent coming from, what sort of training do they need in that particular market. And the new one that's become, I think, a skill set of many of us in HR unbeknownst to us, is housing. And housing has become very relevant in our space, even to the point of becoming competitive with our housing and ensuring that we have housing that will be favorable to those traveling from across the world or those that are just in for the season and wanting to enjoy a seasonal property kind of in its prime. But there's a lot that goes with each component of that in understanding who will be there, creating the employee experience that will lend towards that season. You can't just sort of hope for the best as you ramp up for your season in a seasonal property. So it's highly important for us. I think we're constantly learning, evolving our strategies to make sure that we stay on top of it.
And how does all of this affect talent acquisition?
I think for us, it's knowing that you can't just take from one funnel, right? There are many different sources you need to understand and become subject matter experts of. Those of you that have dipped your toe into the H-2B pool or J-1s, there's a lot to know in that process, and you need to align yourself with really solid partners that know that space and can help you. You can't really kind of go it alone if you've never been in that space before. We have a great partner in the H-2B space called Seasonal Connect. They are by trade H-2B attorneys and help with the process of filings and all the administrative pieces that can be a little bit burdensome for us to take on ourselves. But they also have created this offshoot business called Seasonal Connect, which has been hugely helpful. And their goal is to really help properties that are primarily seasonal rotate their H-2B talent to remain in country, because that doesn't count towards your cap and the number of individuals that you can take on or that can be within the H-2B program. So they really help facilitate this flow of individuals to go from seasonal property to seasonal property and support each other. We're all in this together, right? The seasonal properties, I would encourage you, if you haven't considered working outside of your own portfolio, working with other seasonal properties, it's still a huge benefit. It's always nice to work within your portfolio and keep people within your company culture, but we're all in it together when it comes to staffing for these seasonal locations, and highly recommend this process of networking with your peers that are also in the seasonal space to see if you can have some sort of exchange program to help with your talent acquisition process.
And Kelly, did you want to chime in with that?
Sure. So we spend a lot of time talking about the future of the hospitality industry at industry events within Encore. And so for us, there's a few approaches we take to make sure that we're paying attention to our talent acquisition strategy. So number one, it is critical for us to continue to have a robust pipeline using diverse recruiting strategies so that we could attract the workforce of the future. And this means that we have to understand the changing generational shifts in values, and we have to adapt to them, and we have to create programs that will appeal to them. For example, flexibility is a big topic that we're talking about today. I mean, there's a huge desire for flexibility in the workforce. And then secondly, I would say career pathing and development. We have to be really transparent with applicants about how we could provide them a lifelong career at our company. So we've created programs where we can hire applicants in who have no experience, and we can provide them a career path, whether it be technology or sales or operations or leadership, through all of our internal training programs and mentoring programs.
Those are great examples. Brad, did you want to add some examples for some students as well?
Yeah, and I'll take the sort of the general manager perspective of this with these professionals here. But for us, building a culture of excellence is really important. So having a talent acquisition tool is paramount to that. If you want to have your ladies and gentlemen aligned with your vision and your mission, you have to have a tool that brings that to life. We use the STAR method in Marriott and Ritz-Carlton. We also have an online assessment for leaders. A few years ago, we partnered with a company called Talent Plus, who really, I think, developed the service culture for Ritz-Carlton. I know Alexandra's out there. She knows that too. But it gave us the ability to really build that culture. And I think that tool is so important to have, because anybody can interview for 45 minutes an hour and really tell a story, but do you really understand that their talent is going to make you successful in your organization or your hotel? So it's really important for us to have those tools so that we can really find the best top 1% that we're looking for to drive that luxury culture.
So I think that's really important. I think, we talk a lot in all of these panels and in general about these issues of employee retention, and then also growing our talent to retain them and make sure that they're successful. There's a statistic that says that nearly 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and I know that's one of the issues that sort of we all grapple with in most industries, but especially in this one. So how can companies effectively support their employees' financial wellness to reduce stress and increase focus on job performance so that they can be, whole in the household as well as perform well in their jobs? And Kim, I don't know if you wanted to kick this one off.
Sure, thank you. There's actually 3 things that Corey Hospitality has put in place, and one I think most have access to, but we have a program called on-demand pay. And so through your human capital management system or payroll service provider, they often have these programs in place. And the amount of curators, and we call them experienced curators, that take advantage of this and they can tap into their earnings before payday has truly increased our retention, as well as it's a great tool for recruitment. Coming out of COVID, I know the fight for talent was fierce. And I'd have to say that probably in the last 12 to 18 months, I've seen that shift where it's not as fierce, and the labor market seems to be more healthy than it was. But we know that our travelers just don't carry cash anymore. And so Corey Hospitality partnered with a company called High Five, and it was something that I had experience with in my prior company as a pilot program, and they are a cashless tipping app provider. And this program is designed to provide recognition to those curators that aren't in tipping positions. And we've successfully rolled it out at all of our locations, and we're just coming up to 12 months of completion, and we've been able to give back $40,000 to our hourly curators that they might not have received otherwise, simply because we just don't carry cash as much when we travel. And so that's something that there are a lot of solution providers out there. And so I think that if that's something you are exploring or haven't explored, it's definitely worth the return on investment for your curators. And then the other is a program that we designed internally that I'm not sure there's any other companies out there that have it, and we call it Rev Up. And it is built, there's other components to it, but the incentive and reward component is actually twofold. We designed a program that the first part of it is quarterly, and it's based on key metrics. So intent to recommend is very important for us. We look at our most improved in different categories, and then we have what's called a CEO Choice Award. And each quarter, our top performing location gets a $100 bill if they are the top ITR, and the most improved in the CEO, the curators get a $50 bill. This program is designed only for our hourly curators, and so it provides that incentive quarterly. And to be able to have a celebration quarterly and have your leadership team walk around and pass out a $100 bill or a $50 bill, it goes a long ways. The other component of it is the annual component. And, we believe in, if we are succeeding as a company, we want to give back to our curators. I'm sure most of you have bonus programs in place for your salaried curators or your executive team. This again is to give back to primarily our hourly curators. And we look at our GOP for the year, and if a hotel has exceeded GOP, we take 10% of that excess and we give back to our curators. We look at the number of hours they worked, and each hour worked is worth a certain part of that pool. And for this, we're coming up on our 3rd year, and this is the time of the year that we do it, right before the Christmas holidays. And last year and the year before, our top performing hotels, we were able to walk around with live checks right before Christmas in the amount of $3,000, and to watch the impact that that has on your housekeepers or your front desk associates. It's just phenomenal. And so it's something that we believe in, that giving back and sharing the wealth. And so we've just been really successful with that. And it's those types of programs that, you know, when your curator's faced with maybe going down the street for another 25 cents, those are the things that they remember.
I think that's fantastic. And it's interesting to hear that there are all of these incentives that really add to how much the employees are bringing in, which is great. I know that Encore has a program that they've launched that also helps with saving. Did you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, thank you. So we've rolled out a few programs that I'd love to share with the audience. The first program is called Overtime Savings, and it is the first of its kind in the U.S. And it is a partnership we have with UKG, who is our HR and payroll provider, where we leverage their digital wallet. And through this digital wallet, our frontline workers can elect to save overtime during the busier seasons when they're working more, and use it during the slower seasons when the hours aren't as available. So it addresses the challenges of seasonality by providing a more consistent paycheck throughout the year. And so for our team members, we're investing in their financial well-being, we're reducing their stress of the seasonal hours, and for us in turn, you know, it comes back to service excellence, because then we've got happy team members who have less stress, who are at work, that can provide better service to our hotel partners and our customers. And then a second program that we rolled out, also leveraging our relationship with UKG and the digital wallet, it's called Salary Advance. And this is for our hourly and our salary team members. So our team members can actually access their wages for hours worked that have not been paid yet. So essentially, we're using technology to do away with the thought process as if you have to wait every 2 weeks to get a paycheck. So through the Salary Advance, you can access your wages daily. So for us, again, it's investing in their financial well-being, but it's also giving them the flexibility to pay for what they need to at the time they need to pay for it.
I think those are really helpful. And so we've talked about some strategies for retention. We've talked about strategies for retention. We've talked about tipping. We've talked about programs that help employees save. What are some examples with regard to your organizations that have increased employee satisfaction and retention above and beyond the financial aspects, right? So it's you know, everybody wants to make more, but what else are we doing to really satisfy and retain top talent in our industry? And Kim, I'll start with you.
Thank you. So, you know, I think that we all know our curators want that sense of belonging and connection, and that what they're doing makes a difference. You know, and for us, feedback is a gift. We all hope that it's positive feedback, but sometimes it's not. But we actually went away from an annual engagement survey and moved to a pulse survey. We do that 2 times a year, and we reduced the questions down until about the 10 or 12 that made the most impact in the work environment. And it's been amazing to see the shift of getting that more frequent feedback, and then knowing that their voice matters. We saw a 94% participation rate, which is incredible, with a 90% engagement score. And so we're really proud of that. And this year we're going to go ahead and go for our great places to work, and keeping that feedback alive. The other thing we did was we implemented a 30, 60, 90-day survey process. So when our curators, we know the highest turnover in our industry comes in that first 90 days. And so by being able to get their feedback throughout the process, A, on their onboarding, secondly, on the culture, and third, on the leadership, it helps us to proactively, first of all, recognize where we're exceeding their expectations, but then also be able to make some adjustments if need be. And so that's proved to be successful. The other thing is, it's important that we're good stewards of the community, and I know the generations now truly want that sense of belonging. We partnered with St. Jude's in order to give back, and we give back not only through our Days of Giving, which is our guest focus, but also our curator giving. And over the last 2 years have been able to gift to St. Jude over $600,000 raised through those initiatives. And so, those types of programs and connections do mean a great deal to the curators. And I think last is all companies out there focus on branding, primarily externally. We know the importance of doing that internally, and so Corey Hospitality places a significant emphasis on creating that internal brand so that our curators have that connection again. And we've created what we call our People First program, and it really covers the entire employment life cycle, everything from your onboarding to the training that we're providing. We have 2 programs that help us grow our talent. Our leadership and training program is designed more for your entry level, those that are getting out of college and want to focus in hospitality. And the other is what we call our CEO in training, because our general managers are the CEOs of their business. And so Corey Hospitality has grown exponentially and will continue. And so for us to be able to grow that talent internally and invest back, because it's what's in it for them, has been significant. And so it's something that we're really proud of.
Well, thank you. I mean, so far I'm hearing that we're using real-time feedback and making real-time adjustments rather than annually, which speaks to the researcher in me, and I think that's phenomenal. I love the idea of aligning with core values with our employees. I think that's really important, and kudos to your company for donating so much to St. Jude's. I think that certainly deserves a round of applause. Holly, I know that there are some initiatives your organization has as well. Did you want to share those? Because I think these are all really beneficial for us to hear, so we can all learn from one another and see what everyone else is doing so we can improve our employee satisfaction in our work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really important within our discipline to be internal branders and to be versed in branding and telling your story. We did a core values refresh a couple of years ago that went over really well with the team. When I joined the company 3 years ago, I had so many great things that were said about Noble House. People were like, you're going to love them. It's a great group. I'm like, yes, but why? What makes them so special? And when I met everyone, I noticed people had stayed with the company for decades in many cases. My 2 colleagues here have been with the company for decades. So I was like, what is making people stay? We're an industry that doesn't traditionally have a lot of longevity. So why are people staying? What is the story here? So I asked a lot of questions when I started, really, made it to every single property, met all the team members on the ground in every area. And just, I was very passionate about telling the story that we're still a family-run organization in hospitality, which is rare. I think people feel very safe and protected by our founders of the company. They're just kind people. They feel their warmth. That's a unique thing to have. So to tell those stories of what makes us interesting and unique and special, I was extremely passionate about. But what I found was when we did the core values refresh and I threw the assignment out to the properties to bring it to life and speak to why those new core values that we were relaunching were important to them, why it spoke to their property, why it spoke to what they did every day, they blew me away. It was like an open book, open note assignment, no specific criteria. You could do a song, you could do a video, you could do a picture, whatever you want to do. And the creativity and the heart that came out in this process. I mean, Shane hit it yesterday in saying people want to find meaning in their work. I think that's so important, and it's not generational. Every generation wants to find meaning in their work. So to create a format in which they can tell the story of what makes their organization so special, it goes beyond some of those financial aspects, which are also incredibly important, and things that we continue to try to push the envelope with as well. But starting with that building block of culture and who are we and what is our identity, infusing it into your evaluation process. Our evaluations now are 7 questions. They're the 7 core values. How are you doing with respect to those 7 questions? And I agree with I don't like the idea of making an annual assignment. We've rolled this out, but we're not policing it, because I want it to be something that people want to do, that they want to be a part of. So it's a more meaningful exercise than just checking the box.
I love that aspect of storytelling and really putting a face to the organization through each brand representative. I think that's a really excellent practice. Kelly, did you want to talk about BRGs?
Yes, so we've got a few programs I'd love to share with you from a retention and engagement standpoint. So BRGs are our business resource groups. We have 9 that we have grown from our team members. And we call them BRGs. I know many companies will use ERGs, but we've intentionally kept the business resource group because we want to make it really apparent to our team members that you do have the ability to influence our business decisions. So we will, and we see it as an invaluable part of team members coming together, belonging to a community, networking in a really dispersed work environment. And so we will take their unique feedback and they influence our decisions. So for example, our Pride BRG has influenced the expansion of our healthcare benefits, and our Enable, which is a neuro-inclusive BRG, like we're currently working with them on how to make more inclusive content and programming in our trade shows and conferences. So their feedback is impacting the business positively, but it's providing them more meaningful work. And then secondly, we rolled out another program this year. It's called the Seasonal Leave of Absence, also from a retention standpoint. So in this program, our team members have the opportunity to take a short break from work during the slower seasons. So for example, for Encore, from June through August, let's say, they could go take a leave of absence, do whatever they would like to do, pursue their passions, work a part-time job, take a class, go follow a band around the country, whatever they want to do. And while they are on leave of absence, they are eligible for unemployment. Encore pays 100% of their benefit premiums. Their PTO continues to accrue. And when they return, there is no break in their service.
Good.
And so we are able to return them, and we've had a 94% retention rate. So they can return to us. And in turn, for our customers, we're providing a more constant and consistent service and team at our hotel venues and with our customers.
That's phenomenal. That's incredible. Brad, what are we doing at Ritz-Carlton?
So, thank you. I think 2 things. One is just playing on what was said earlier. Recognition is really, really important for us. And one of the ways that we have many ways of doing it at Ritz-Carlton, but one of the ways we do it is 5-star. And it's out of 800 employees at my hotel, 75 to 80 will be nominated each quarter. There's only 5 that get chosen and 1 leader. What I decided to do is to take those 75 ladies and gentlemen, and we'll have an advisory board throughout the year, and they're the ears and the eyes for me, and we involve them in the work that affects them, and they make those decisions, and we do a stop, start, continue, and it gives us an opportunity to really involve the ladies and gentlemen to tell us how can we do things better, how can we continue to do things better, and where's the things that maybe we want to stop, and it really resonates throughout the entire hotel. And I think just back to retention, I think the other thing that is important is to paint the picture of total compensation. And when you look at a company like ours, we offer, in some cities it's 40 to 60% benefit rate. the premium on those benefits that are paid, stock purchase program at a reduced amount for those ladies and gentlemen to preserve for their futures, 401k matches, employee meals, parking, and you put all those things together, and it starts to really resonate that it's not just that paycheck, it's also all the other things that we provide as a company. And I think you'd be surprised, the employees don't think about those things as much. Our ladies and gentlemen also, is interesting when, in today's world where we look at third-party providers for restaurants, so benefits are a sort of a blessing and a curse at times, because that's the one reason why they can do it cheaper, right? But when we had that happen in Washington, D.C., I had about 45 to 50 ladies and gentlemen. We retained 99% of them. And one of the biggest reasons that we learned was that because they wanted to keep their employee rate program when they traveled. It was so important to them. And so I would just say everything that we can do around how do we impact their lives outside of the four walls of the hotels is really, really important. And if you can really illustrate those ways that we do that, I think you'll improve retention and see that really be a success in your hotel.
I agree. I mean, we've talked about the finances. We've talked about all of these innovative strategies to really make sure that the brands and the people align with one another, with their core values, with what's important to them, with the things that are going to enhance their lives and their well-being. But I think we might still have a little bit of room for improvement. So my next question is, what can our industry do and learn from other industries regarding the workforce? How do we fit or not fit into broader corporate trends? There are post-pandemic trends like quiet quitting. What are we doing, or what can we learn from other industries that will help us to grow and really be that star leading industry where people want to come and stay? Allie?
I'll start. Sure. There was a lot of conversation yesterday with respect to the operations side, and as luxury operators, meeting the customer where they are and serving from a place of empathy, right? And I think in HR, serving from a place of empathy needs to be our approach as well. Really listening to what our teams need, what's important to them, and finding a way to achieve that. It can certainly be a challenge to provide flexible scheduling for everyone in our operation, but there are ways to do it. There are ways to try it in our housekeeping department. I've heard of some housekeeping teams scheduling, giving them a gap in the middle of the day so they can go take care of family obligations, come back, finish their rooms, and still serve the needs of the operation. These things are worth a try. Having done HR in California for many years, there's a lot of plight that we share in operating in California, but there are sometimes things to learn that we sometimes look and go, okay, maybe California didn't get this one wrong. And I think last year was an example. There are a few new things rolled out. Reproductive leave loss. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. Why wouldn't we give our team members a break after a reproductive loss? And so we implemented that across the board and said, okay, not just in California, that's something that everyone should have the ability to take advantage of. Guaranteed, some extended bereavement time. Of course, that's the right thing to do. If somebody experiences bereavement in their immediate family, we should do the right thing and take care of that person. So sometimes we look in our position to some of that legislation, or even in some of the union negotiations, predictive scheduling, that's just the right thing to do. Why wouldn't we get ahead of that and be the good guy versus have our hand forced in some of these things? So I try to look to some of those trends that are out there that serve our employees and say what really just makes sense and shouldn't be something that we only implement in a union environment or only implement in a California property that all of our team members should benefit from. I think parental leave is an area that we as an industry lag in. As a parent myself, many of us are parents on this panel, I found. It's something that's always surprising to me of having friends in other industries that they have very robust paid parental leave programs in place, and I think our industry as a whole is behind in that. Hyatt has actually done some new things in that space to expand it more to more team members and have some more robust offerings, and I applaud them for that. And I think what is found in many of these situations, you hear paid leave paid parental leave across the board, and you sort of flinch from a P&L perspective. But if you speak to those that are trying it, like the Hyatts of the world, I think they'll tell you there's actually low utilization, and there's not much to budget for here to account for this. It's just having a plan in place to do the right thing for our team members, but there's not some major financial impact to your bottom line that's going to hit. So just take the leap, do the right thing for your team members, and try it. And so I think a lot of us just are in that space of let's listen, let's be empathetic, let's hear, and let's act upon that. Let's just give it a try.
I think that's a really valuable point, especially with regard to planning and budgeting for things like paid parental leave or paid time off or even leave, et cetera, knowing that, just offering it gives people a sense of well-being. Brad, what are you all doing at Ritz-Carlton to, or what would you recommend based on industry trends that you're seeing that we can do as an industry to really keep up with other industries and retain top talent?
Yeah, I think Holly mentioned it earlier. Housing is just a huge issue for us, particularly in Santa Barbara. It's so expensive to live there. Most of our ladies and gentlemen are living 45 minutes away. And so those travel costs, things like that add up. So we're looking at a development that's going to be in 10, 15 minutes from the resort. And we're actually partnering with other corporations that are located in Santa Barbara. Google's got a small office there, Teledyne, Deckers. And so as a collaboration of those companies, along with the hotel owners, there's a developer that's got a low income, mid, and high that he's going to develop that we're all going to partner in. So we're looking at taking on 20 to 30 units. Teledyne's looking at taking on X amount of units, and then we can bring those back at a subsidized rate to our ladies and gentlemen. Now, there's some complexity there is from an HR's perspective, is it leaders, is it ladies and gentlemen? But that's a big issue for us to overcome, and then have a retention. We are right next to a university, so it's the Santa Barbara University of California is right there. So probably 25 to 30% of our work staff is represented from those college kids, and their priorities aren't always the hotel. So how do we also retain those individuals from then moving from Santa Barbara to possibly somewhere that is a little bit less expensive, like Los Angeles or Newport Beach, and that's become something back to what we've mentioned with all these items that we provide, a career path. And one of the things, just take from a general manager's perspective, front desk. Instead of just having them work at the front desk for 2 years, and it's a tough job. You're there and you're dealing with the most important commodity, which is the guest room. We're bringing them in and we're working them through guest relations for 7 months, front desk for 7 months, club lounge for about 7 months, and before you know it, they're there for 2 years. They've got an incredible base foundation, and then we're promoting them as a leader. So it's helping us with retention in keeping our ladies and gentlemen in the hotel and not having such high acquisition costs, which, as you all know, are very expensive to bring on. And when you do lose, as an example, a manager, a leader, you're going to pay more to get the new one replaced, right? That's just the way it is. And probably housing, relocation, and maybe even a signing bonus. So it's become something you really need to look at. To how do you keep your ladies and gentlemen in your hotel?
I think we've gotten a lot of great takeaways with regard to our people and culture in our industry. We've certainly highlighted a few things that we can learn and improve on, as well as amazing programs and initiatives that you all are doing in your organizations to really enhance our workforce, develop them, and make sure that we retain our top talent. I do have one final question for all of you. If you have one piece of advice going forward for our audience and for anybody who watches this panel afterwards, what would that be? And I'm going to start with you, Kelly.
Thanks. Well, my piece of advice would be to start with active listening. It's a crucial first step. At Encore, we do this several ways. We are part of the Great Places to Work, proudly certified for 3 years, so we do a formal survey. But we also do informal surveys. We do tech roundtables. So we have many ways in which we get employee feedback. And the programs that I mentioned earlier, the salary advance, the overtime savings, the seasonal leave of absence, these came from employees through these surveys. And what we're finding is the employees that are participating in these programs are staying with us. We can see the retention rate increasing. So if you happen to be a company, though, that may not have these formal surveys, like you as leaders,
it starts with us. Like, find a way to talk to your team members and get feedback from them, because they probably have some pretty great ideas that will positively impact the business and create more meaningful work for them, which means that you increase the retention and the engagement.
Thank you so much. Kim,
Yeah, actually twofold. I think all of us have to continue to embrace the use of technology and how it is truly changing the landscape. And we are in the people business. We can't run our businesses without being there in the people. But I am so curious about the session later today around how Fontainebleau used AI to do their hiring here, and learn about that. We just actually did our first virtual career fair, and not only was it less expensive, but the success rate was doubled of what would normally be, and it was more efficient, time well spent for our leaders. But I also think, as an organization, I am so blessed to be with an organization that encourages creativity, entrepreneurialism, resourcefulness, curiousness. We try things. A lot of times they work, and when they do, we replicate across all of our locations, and sometimes they don't, and we learn from that. And so I see now that our curators want that. They want that ability to be able to make those suggestions and think outside the box, and for the organization to embrace it. And so I'm just really privileged to be with an organization that does embrace that, and it really helps drive our success.
thank you so much. All
Two things. One, find the partnerships that best help support your organization. I think from an HR standpoint, our payroll vendors, our insurance brokers, our marketing partners, we may not speak the language of all of those different kind of subgroups within our division, but having the partnerships that really support your organization are key in being good teachers to us and serving us in all those different areas, and helping us find ways and solutions seek for our team members that we may not think of first and foremost. I know we've done a lot of really innovative things in the benefit space, I think, but that's come from really good advice from our broker. So seek those partnerships that really support you and teach you and educate you. And the second one, I would say, I'm going to kind of take a left turn, but encourage your team members to learn different languages. We just recently had our HR summit, and I threw it out there to all of my team that they could expense their Duolingo membership. Sorry, Don, I didn't budget, but it's a thing. Because we were finding that just the amount of different languages spoken within our departments, in our markets. Some of my more successful HR leaders, they may not be the most technically savvy, but they're multilingual. And so they can reach all of their team members at their specific location. And it makes them incredibly successful. So we made this commitment this year that we're all going to be proficient in another language and get there together and learn together and kind of challenge each other through Duolingo and have fun with it. But I think all of us in the positions that we serve could benefit from learning different languages and connecting with so many more people in doing that.
I love that. That helps with, I can see that helping across the board in the organization, as well as being something that's personally gratifying. And it certainly speaks to continuing education that we talked about earlier in the earlier session as well. Brad?
Yeah, just a couple things. First and foremost, technology is bringing us efficiency. But in luxury, I want that transaction. I want that emotional connection between my ladies and gentlemen and my guests. And just be careful not to lose that. Mobile key is great for a corporate hotel downtown DC, but in a resort environment or anywhere that you're going to have an experience, technology can take that away. And so I really just want to make sure we use that certainly as an efficiency, but also that we know that the relationship to build a guest for life is really important. And at the end of the day, it's people serving people. So technology has got, I think, a little bit of a double-edged sword. And then just remember, wherever you are, and Alexandra's there and Diana's here, Chris, people are your most important resource, and you need to treat them that way. And I think we've heard that from everyone. All these things that we've talked about have a direct impact to our ladies and gentlemen. I think we just need to make sure we treat them that way, and we'll be successful.
I agree. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank you all. I know a lot of my takeaways from this are certainly the importance of recognizing our people from hearing from our people, and then taking what they've given us and finding programs and technology and other resources to really help us facilitate giving them what they want and how they want it, when they want it, right? And not just giving them more money, although that is important, obviously, and finding ways to do that, but also finding ways to help them save and recognize the value in saving so that they're not only successful for us now, but also in the future, and that we can retain them, finding things to give them time off so that they can recharge and come back refreshed. We've heard so many incredible recommendations, providing housing, affordable housing for our employees. And I just want to thank you all for your time, for your expertise. We have 4 experts up here, so if you didn't meet an expert earlier, you can come say hello after our session. We do have 2 minutes for questions if anybody has any, but thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Kelly, Kim, Holly, Brad, I've learned so much. I hope you all have taken so much away as well.